Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Before we dive back into our story this week, just a reminder, this is part 3 of our veteran story with Tom Joyce. So if this name doesn't ring a bell, take a couple steps back and go listen to part 1 and 2. Trust me, it's worth it. All right, now on to our episode. This week, we're back in Minot, where our story began. We're going to get some insights into what life in North Dakota looks like and why Minot city government needed a Tom Joyce.
One of the reasons I took this job, I felt it from the beginning, and it's still today. I need freedom of maneuver to work. I don't need somebody looking over my shoulder.
Tom, you know him by now. He spent nearly 30 years in the Air Force, was a colonel, and when he started his new veteran life, it took a while to find his footing. But where we left him last episode, he had set foot in government work for the first time. He'd done a program to shadow a government executive in Chesapeake. Then one thing led to another, and Tom was sent to us at MGT. So in this episode, Tom meets our talented recruitment team. He finds out what's going on in North Dakota, and he starts a new life. Big moves all around.
Having a veteran background in a community that also has a strong military base presence, right, can help because you do understand the same language.
When we walked to City Hall, walked around and came to the interview, it was obviously a city that cares about its downtown, and I felt like, hey, this could be the right spot.
This is Impact in Action, a podcast from MGT. Often when we talk about social change, we think about protests, new laws, people helping people, stories of redemption and justice. But social change, it can start with one person changing their life and taking a new chance on a community. Social change, it's giving people an opportunity to do good when they're needed and supporting them to reach their goals. On this podcast, we travel around the country to see what social change looks like on the ground. We tell the real stories behind every life-changing impact solution. We're MGT, a provider of specialized technology and advisory solutions. Social impact, it's what we do every day. So let's take you to the heart of the action. Today, we're back with Tom Joyce and a special guest from MGT, the talented Charlene Stevens.
Impact and action is really kind of making that match between communities and candidates and supporting individuals in the local government profession at any point in their career.
I'm your host, Chase Christiansen. Welcome to Impact in Action. So, where were we? Oh, that's right. Okay. Where we left off last episode, Tom had just gotten in touch with MGT. He knew he wanted to go into city government, and he was keen to find the right opportunity for him, the right fit, remember? But at that stage, he needed a hand to get through the recruitment process. So he signed up with our HR specialists. That's how he met Charlene.
Charlene Stevens, Vice President of Human Capital. With MGT, I lead our executive recruitment services.
Charlene, she's the expert you want on your side. I'm serious. She really knows government work inside and out. Now, you've never met Charlene, so let me introduce you. Charlene leads our executive recruitment services. Before she worked at MGT, she spent 20 years in government offices. She held chief administrative roles, worked in all sorts of settings, including rural, suburban, urban communities, jurisdictions as small as 50,000 people, and then sometimes a lot bigger places too. She worked in the Twin Cities, Minnesota, for example. So yeah, Charlene has some serious public service expertise. And today, she helps get new talent on their path to city government.
What's really rewarding and what I really enjoy about executive recruitment is, first, it kind of keeps me connected to local government where I spent a large part of my career. And then secondly, the opportunity to connect and see local government in different kind of sizes and shapes, different communities and experience. I do enjoy that.
Discovering a community from the inside and connecting with local folks, tapping into a town's unseen potential. That's Charlene's passion. It's what her whole career has been about. At MGT, that translates to a few missions.
So I lead a team of about 10 full-time recruiters. I do a lot of work now on the kind of proposal side with a proposal team, kind of in a sales capacity, I guess you would say. We respond to requests for proposals or communities that are looking for assistance with executive recruitment, also kind of matching the right recruiter with the recruitment. If I'm working on my own recruitment, there might be some interviews that I'm conducting with candidates or preparing for interviews or screening resumes. So it can be pretty varied. And I think that's one of the things I also like about it. No day is exactly the same.
So, in a nutshell, Charlene's job is to reach out to local communities and ask them, do you need a hand finding your new assistant city manager? Yeah? Well, here's a plan to get it done. Then, with her team, she scouts the right candidates and helps them prepare for the role. She's here to make sure everyone finds their match. In her many years, Charlene has seen quite a few veterans come through these recruitment programs. In fact, she has sought out ways to coach them.
With the Veterans Advisory Task Force of ICMA, there's some programs, and I do Coach Connect. It's just free coaching. And so individuals sign up and they can be a coach or they can be somebody who wants to be coached.
And that's exactly what she did with Tom. Truth be told, Charlene is probably the reason that Tom lives in Minot today. I mean, there, I said it. The pair was introduced through the ICMA, the International City County Management Association, and the work started from there.
So when Charlene got in touch with me, we had a Zoom call. She had done her homework. She looked at my resume. She probably, even looked at LinkedIn for all I know, but it was an exchange of conversation.
The first call wasn't an interview or anything. It was just a conversation. But Charlene did know what she was doing. And even then, she knew Tom would be a good fit for this job coming up in Minot.
And I think she does what good executive recruiters do. She was doing the encouraging me to apply portion, right? Which could be quote unquote saying selling the job, but she wasn't over the top with it.
Now, it needs to be said, if somebody, anybody, could sell Minot, it was definitely Charlene, because she was the Minot connoisseur.
So I grew up in South Dakota. So I grew up in Sioux Falls, but have family that's kind of in other parts of South Dakota. And then actually my grandparents were from a smaller community in North Dakota, Valley City, kind of outside of Fargo. So it did feel very familiar.
Yeah, Charlene understands what this region feels like to live in. And in the case of Minot, it's a place with a ton of history and life. People call Minot the Magic City because it kind of appeared out of nowhere back in the late 19th century. Well, I mean, not exactly out of nowhere. At the time, the Canadian Pacific Railway brought businesses to the area, and so, boom, just like that, matter of years, the city of Minot came to life. Now, it's slightly different. It's the Air Force Base that brings a lot of the activity to Minot. Minot is a smallish community with an awesome downtown. Imagine a 4x4 block with older buildings dating back to the 1900s. Most of the shops are mom and pops, the things we love. And then there are developers too, working hard to renovate old buildings. Outside of Minot, there are no suburbs. It's just a nice little Midwestern kind of place.
It's prairie and such. And so, it's not a mountain kind of landscape, but they've got a beautiful river going through downtown and just a very welcoming community, easy to get around, businesses, restaurants. I think because the air base is there as well as a university is there, they have a lot of diversity as a community kind of standing alone.
So Minot has a lot going for itself. And yet, it's not a place that attracts a lot of newcomers either. That's the thing with small communities. They're often hidden gems.
We always say this in recruitment. It's always easier to attract people to a larger metropolitan area than it is maybe a standalone community or a regional center that's located farther from a metropolitan area. And some of that just has to do with perceptions of career opportunity for other partners or spouses. And so those can be harder to attract individuals because they really require kind of relocation of a family and all of those. And then Minot has a very vibrant and interesting downtown to visit and such. And I think people don't always think of that when they think of Minot because they think of North Dakota. They think of the air base that's there. They think it's cold. And so sometimes people are turned off by that.
Frankly, Charlene is not lying. If you asked Tom what he knew about Minot before moving there, the cold was all anybody talked about.
Many people in the United States Air Force would say, why not Minot? And then the answer to that was, freezing is the reason. But on the other hand, their summer's beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous weather. I grew up in the Southeast, and let me tell you, there's no humidity up here relative to the Southeast of the United States.
Obviously, the weather is not the whole story here. But in Minot's case, that reputation wasn't serving the city well. Back in 2022, the local government was trying to grow their staff and struggled to find the right person. They needed a new assistant city manager, someone who'd moved to Minot and helped develop the city. Charlene had her eye on the case because it wasn't the first time they had trouble recruiting.
3-4 years ago now, they were doing an executive search for a city manager search, and we were selected to help them with that. And so I had the opportunity to work with the mayor and the council on that executive search and place the current city manager there, Harold Stewart.
Harold Stewart, you need to remember that name because you're going to hear a lot more about him in this episode. Charlene is the one who got him in his current role as the city manager in Minot. So they kept in touch fairly regularly.
The first year and kind of second year, he was kind of restructuring the organization and the leadership of the organization a little bit more for efficiencies and some enhanced operations as well.
See, the thing is, Minot didn't just have an issue bringing in new people. It also had specific needs. Despite being small, Minot is diverse. It's got the Air Force Base and a university. It's a beacon for regional services, which is both an opportunity and a challenge because there are many parts to coordinate. Another thing is the Air Force Base has a lot of influence on the local culture. Case in point,
the city manager, Harold, he had an interesting story when he became the city manager, is that his father had actually been at the air base. So when he was a child, he had lived in Minot with his family when his father was stationed. So when he applied for the opportunity in Minot, it kind of brought back some of his personal connection to the community. And I think that was really positive for the governing body at the time to see that somebody kind of really appreciated and enjoyed that connection.
So yes, understanding how the military works, knowing how to speak with members of the Air Force, it's essential in a place like Minot. Interesting, right? So if we recap for Minot, the challenge was twofold. On the one hand, make the city attractive, bring in new talent. And on the other, make sure that whoever steps in is a good fit, that they can really connect with the community of Minot.
There are lots of really good city managers, assistant city managers, but they're not all right for every community, even myself in my career, right? There are communities that I'm going to enjoy and be very engaged in and strengths that I'm going to bring. And then there's other things that maybe I'm not going to bring that strength in. And if that community needs it and I don't have it, I'm not going to be a good fit there. And so you want that fit to be on both sides. So part of it is listening to the community and the client for us up front and understanding what they're looking for. Are they looking for somebody who's visionary? Are they looking for somebody who's strategic? Are they looking for somebody who is kind of a stabilizer or a change agent? Minot, they were looking for somebody who had some strengths and some background in public works, right? And so if you don't bring that kind of skill set or that knowledge or that experience, you might be a great candidate, but it's not a match. It's not that the candidate's not skilled. It's just not the right match of skills.
Okay, here we're at the very beginning of the recruitment journey. At this stage, Charlene understood what Minot needed and the issue they were dealing with. The next thing to do was to build a profile for the role and figure out which set of skills could match the opportunity. So here's what she found. First, let's get it out of the way. The right candidate should probably have an appetite for living in a small community. Secondly,
obviously somebody who's a strong communicator and very collaborative is always critical in local government. I think project management is a critical skill in local government because you're overseeing different departments and the ability to kind of see things at an overarching level, and somebody who could really help build and strengthen a collaborative team.
And then someone who can develop and mentor talent in the organization. That would be useful too. Now, to me, that sounds an awful lot like Tom, don't you think? Yeah, Charlene sensed that too.
If you are in local government and if you've also been a veteran, you're very committed to public service. And, that's a natural kind of alignment. And, the military itself it's a very diverse organization. And so they're very accustomed to working with individuals from very different backgrounds and adapt and transition very quickly. I think also that just the military, because there's relocation involved, individuals are accustomed sometimes to moving and relocating for an opportunity. So those skills translate very well.
The other thing Charlene saw in Tom was his ability to lead.
He'd had a great career in the military. And so he really brought kind of a robust kind of leadership profile. He could be very open in terms of regions and locations that he was looking for as well. And then I just, could see that he brought some of the skill sets that they were looking for, whether the public works background, the leadership background, leading teams, I thought could make him a good fit in that community or a good candidate.
Okay, so let's recap. Happy to work in a small community. Check. That's what Tom did on military installations. Strong communicator? Check. What about project management? Check. Commitment to public service, leadership experience, and ability to relocate? Check, check, check. Well, this is starting to look pretty good, isn't it? When she put the pieces together, Charlene also started to see some real potential if Tom got the job in Minot. And that's what got him excited.
She knew a lot about Minot. She had recruited the current city manager. And so she really knew Harold's desires and wants. And her point was, if you're an assistant city manager for a while, that'll help provide some nurturing experiences if I decide to be a city manager.
Tom gained confidence that he could do the job. So at that point, they got to work.
He expressed interest, he applied for the position, and then he went through the process that we put all applicants through in terms of applying for the position and then a screening interview, references, all of our due diligence in that as well.
Literally, she said, send me your resume and let me take a look at it. And she literally was like crossing this out, crossing that, because, my federal resume wasn't exactly what they use in the local government side. So she really was helpful.
Now, for all you veterans out there, listen carefully. It's time to take notes.
One of the challenges we do see with veterans is sometimes that their resumes don't translate to a non-military, right? So just approach it like you would any other career shift, and just like anybody who's shifting industries. So staying away from jargon from your industry, making sure that a non-veteran can understand the people and the teams and the budgets that you led.
For Tom's CV, a simple piece of advice was shorten the whole thing and frame your skills differently.
Where I was in my grade, you're expected to write your resume along what they call the executive core qualifications. That has kind of 5 major themes: leading people, leading change, business acumen, results driven, and building coalitions. But the local government was the same but different. It was like, okay, it's not a 5-page resume, it's a 3-page resume. That's not as important here, et cetera, et cetera. So she just helped me scope it and trim it up a little bit. And then obviously it worked.
Yep, Tom sent his application out. He was called in for an interview, and he got ready to nail it. This stage of recruitment was going to take place in Minot, the magic city itself. So Tom and his wife traveled all the way up to North Dakota, and Charlene came down too. But what I love is this trip was actually beneficial for everyone. The hiring team got to see that Tom was motivated and committed. And Tom, he didn't just meet his future employers, he met the entire town too.
When we came here, again, it's not a big city, and we've lived in cities about this size in the past. This is a city that has some of the charm that I think a lot of our larger towns and smaller cities are missing this day and age, where it's become so focused on the suburb. And this city still has an urban center. When we walked here to City Hall, walked around and came to the interview, it was obviously a city that is trying to constantly improve and get better and provide quality services for the citizens. So, I felt good about it before the interview itself. I felt like, hey, this could be the right spot.
The crown jewel is City Hall, one of the most recent projects in Minot's downtown.
The City Hall is in the center of downtown. It was an old Wells Fargo bank, and it just was renovated by the city. It's a lot of glass, a lot of open area, a lot of window natural light. So that was welcoming right from the get-go. It wasn't dark and dingy. It was, wow, they care about their people, right? Because I think that's really, really important, that you like where you're going to work every day.
Tom discovered a city that cared for its people, a place that was active, welcoming, and wanted to do good. And that spoke to him. So by the time he walked into City Hall, Tom was ready for some handshakes and conversations.
Charlene was there, and she coordinated some really great interviews. I had an interview with some former staff members and some other public teammates, state senator and former park district lead, et cetera, as part of kind of a peer interviews. And then my utilities director, Jason Sorensen, gave me a ride around town and just kind of pointing out different projects and those kind of things. So he was probably reporting on me on how that drive went, right?
Yeah, Tom, you read that situation just right. And it won't be a surprise, but the feedback was good. We asked Charlene,
Obviously, he presents very professionally in a setting, and that was seen well by individuals. And then I think also was seen as an asset, his veteran background, because of, again, having a veteran background in a community that also has a strong military base presence, right, can help because, elected officials, everybody understands kind of the role that the base plays in the community. And so somebody who can professionally represent in that space and regard, right, was positive. And then his leadership style, I think, was seen as a good fit for the organization too.
So yeah, it went pretty well. With the interviews behind him, all there was left to do was wait. So Tom went back to his hotel. He spent the night in Minot. And then something unexpected happened. You know that feeling when things are starting to look good and then you get a call?
The next day, I think we hadn't left town yet. I was asked to come back and talk to Harold, that Harold wanted to talk to me. So I sat down with Harold, and it was a good, frank conversation in his office. And it was, what's your end game? And then, so that was a frank question. And I said, well, I know I'm dipping my toes into something a little bit new, but I think my abilities, my knowledge, skills, and behaviors could be helpful to be a city manager down the road, or a county executive. So Harold was very welcoming to that. He has had a number of his direct reports in this type of position, assistant city managers who are now city managers. So he welcomed that opportunity to coach, teach, and mentor. And, and then we'll just, we'll see where this goes, right?
This final conversation, it might seem like a detail, but I really do think it captures something special about this process. The city of Minot was offering Tom a new path where growth was possible. It wasn't just welcome to the team. It was, we really want to invest in you.
And then I think later on that afternoon, got a call from Charlene and said that they'd like to offer me the job. And there you have it.
There you have it. The start of a new chapter. This call, this job, it all happened in October 2022. A month later, Tom and his wife Caroline were back in Minot to take those next steps. And the rest is pretty much history.
Caroline and I came back in mid-November and started house hunting. It's not the greatest time to look for a house in North Dakota. Moved in middle of January. I literally think it was like -20 when we were moving in. And the house that we have, we overlook this retention pond that has so much, so many geese and ducks and pelicans, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Sometimes I look out over this in the summertime when I'm having a sandwich at lunchtime, and I feel like I'm in North Carolina. It's just, there's absolute beauty here. I think I might have the best back view from my deck of any house in North Dakota. So again, I'm a little biased there, but I do think it's gorgeous.
One thing's for sure, Tom is very proud of the city he serves. He loves where he is now. As for the friends who remind him of the good old adage, why not Minot? Freezing is the whatever. Well, Tom has something to say to that.
Well, remember what it says on the entrance gate to the Air Force Base as you're going past the security guards. Only the best come north.
Only the best, that's right. Today, Tom serves on the city executive leadership team. He's in charge of a range of services and operations, and he works hand in hand with the city manager, Harold Stewart. Their mission is to give Minot a new direction and answer the needs of the community. In this new life, he continues to learn every day. And in a way, it's what he's best at.
I'm kind of a product of leader professional development and workforce development. I was thrown a bone many times in my career in many different training, both formal and informal sessions. Why I applied, and I think why Harold was maybe looking for somebody with my skill sets is, I have a wide breadth of experiences. I've worked in many states, multiple countries, headquarters levels jobs in both the Army and the Air Force. We're just in a day-to-day search for best practices and helping the folks on the ground do things in a more efficient, more effective way.
In Minot, Tom, he's in his favorite spot, boots on the ground and hands in the dirt. The community is right here, and he's in contact with the local folks. Tom's office headquarters aren't 1,500 miles away. He gets to see the impact and the value of his work in real time. He owns it.
This morning I had a great conversation with, somebody who works for the Minot Public Schools. And just over the last 2 months, our economic development, our chamber here in Minot puts together a group of about 30 different leaders representing different sectors in the city, got together weekly and met and got to know different entities here in the city. So that was good for networking and getting to know some people. I've volunteered for a nonprofit board. So hopefully I can, start giving back. And I've been fortunate to work with Harold Stewart, who's been coaching me along. He's a 20-year city manager and he's like at his fifth city. So he's learned a lot and he shares his experiences with me.
This new career, it's not just a victory for Tom, it's also a success story for someone like Charlene, whose goal has always been to find the perfect match.
Yeah, I think what's most successful is that he really wanted to make that transition into local government management. For me, that's I think a really good fit. I'm sure Tom will be a city manager in a few years. And so being able to see somebody really kind of make that transition and continue to grow and be able to enjoy it and then also really enjoy the community they're in as well.
It's with that kind of support that Tom was able to start over and find a new vocation beyond the military. Be it MGT, the ICMA, the City of Minot, the Military Veterans Services, or even Tom's loved ones, it took a village to get here. It also took motivation, time, and effort, and Tom worked for it. And now he gets to show up and do what he does best. So if there's one thing you take away from today, it might as well be that. Reach for what you do best. Or as Tom would put it,
my leadership mantra is go for the gold. Compete and repeat. You're going to have a skill set, the Army calls it, military occupational specialty, whatever you've been doing. So if you can't find this exact skill, I think it's look for positions where your behaviors and your motivations are going to contribute. And at the mid-level and upper level, the challenge may be that the salary that you're receiving when you separate from or retire from the military, I would just say be prepared that you might have to take a step back in salary to go 2 or 3 steps forward in the next 5 to 10 years.
So now the time has come to send a heartfelt thank you to Tom Joyce for sharing his life story with us. It's been a long road, but Tom's commitment to public service has been a guiding thread throughout. From this story, we'll hold on to his dedication, his insights, and his unwavering commitment to giving back.
Maybe there's just bits of pearls of wisdom in there that I've learned from many leaders over time that will resonate with somebody and pursue maybe something like I did, pursue a role in local government and use your military experience because it's there, it's helpful, and reach out to your peers in your support network. I'm there to support you. Anything I can do to help, especially my fellow veterans, I'll help you get to where you need to be. That's my promise to you.
Heard that? If you're out there and you want to reach out to Tom, we've left his contact info in the show notes. You know what to do. And with that, we'll see you next time to dive into a whole new story. You've been listening to Impact in Action, a podcast from MGT, provider of technological and social impact solutions. Thank you to Tom Joyce and Charlene Stevens for bringing their voices and experiences to this episode. Our production coordinator is Sarah Bailly, supervision from Tiffany Reynolds. This podcast is made in collaboration with the team at Lower Street. Writing and production from Lise Lavati, sound design from Ben Crannell. I'm your host, Chase Christiansen. We'll see you soon on Impact in Action.